And hello, hello, hello. Hi, friends. It's T. Thanks for joining. Hey, our buddy Rex Heuerman just appeared in the Riverhead Court on Long Island at 9:30 Eastern. He has now been charged with murder number 7, Miss Valerie Mack. Valerie Mack, shown here, age 24. And this case gets crazier and crazier by the moment. In November of 1993 is as far back so far as they have gotten one of the victims, and that was the remains of Sandra Castile, where they found in the North Sea section of the Hamptons on Long Island. Then there's like this whole long timeline that doesn't evolve again almost until 2010, now with the exception of Valerie Mack. But it's so crazy because Shannon Gilbert, who again was a sex worker who disappeared in, I believe it was May of 2010, kind of set the wheels in motion for this entire saga, so to speak. Her body led to the remains of Melissa Bartholomew, who was missing since July of 2009, to Maureen Brainerd Barnes, who was missing since June of 2010, and then Amber Costello, who was missing since September of 2000. All of those 3 bodies were found within a quarter mile of one another on Gilgo Beach. So Gilgo Beach, and hence why they call it the Gilgo Beach murders, although they have graduated this now to List, the Long Island serial killer, because it just the real estate gets wider and wider, so to speak. No disrespect to any of these girls, but it's just, you know, they're tied in one way or another, because then we go to where the police in March of 2011 find partial skeletal remains of Jessica Taylor, whose previous remains had been found in 2003, where those 4 bodies were found within a quarter mile apart of one another on Gilgo. So strange where these a little bit here, a little bit there, but seems to be a little bit of an MO here. And then in 2011, April, I believe, 3 more sets of remains. One belonging to a sex worker, one belonging to a toddler, and one to a man that they found. And this was all while trying to locate Gilbert, right? So a week later, the police found 2 more sets of remains about 7 miles away, and the mother of the toddler and an unidentified woman. Then in December of 2011, Gilbert's remains were found, but the death was ruled an accidental drowning, which is still kind of being, I don't know, to me, it sounds a little weird. Now, there was the whole Joseph Brewer thing and 6 degrees of separation. I met the man, because for those of you that don't know, born and raised on Long Island, I lived 9 houses from the Heuermans later on life, even though I went to school with Craig Heuerman for 12 years. We both had the letter H as last names, and him and I did go to 12 years of school together. I didn't know Rex much as far as the brother was concerned. He was 4 years older than us, but small worlds, because when my husband and I bought a house in Muswell Park, we bought it 9 houses from the Heuermans. And little did we know that for 20-something years that we lived there, he was committing these murders down the street. This was the elephant on the block, so to speak. The house was, never expected it to be an architect's house. It definitely needed some upgrading. But I guess, you know, it's like the shoemaker. Anyway, now in 2011, after they find Gilbert's remains, the case goes cold for like 10 years. Like, you don't hear much about it. Nothing much happens. And then all of a sudden, now there's a lot of speculation out there. Was there a cover-up? Were the cops involved? Was any higher up officials involved? There was so much speculation about, and there's just so much to dive deep in here that right now we can't dive into it all. But in 2020, then police, and that was May of 2020, police identified the unknown woman found next to the toddler as Valerie Mack. And she was a 24-year-old escort who worked in Philadelphia. the Suffolk County District Office in February of 2022 launched the Gilgo Beach Homicide Investigation Task Force to focus on the 10 victims discovered in that location, because there were 10. March of 2022, Heuerman was identified. In July of 23 was when they arrested him at his office in Manhattan over the infamous pizza slice. For those of you that don't know that story, he got his DNA off of the thrown crust of pizza in the garbage outside of his office, and subsequently he was arrested. Obviously pleaded guilty. At that time was charged with 3 of the murders. And then more and more investigation began, and more things came to fruition where they began to actively really work this case. It's amazing, all of the kind of silences over the years of never hearing anything. Now, if you really followed the story, you did hear little bits and pieces here about possibly, like I said earlier, cover-ups and things like that. I didn't follow it that closely at the time, never expecting for this to hit 6 degrees of separation, so close to home. Somebody that, ironically, his brother I went to school with, who now lives where I have now moved to in South Carolina. So really, just really crazy, crazy stuff. Then Karen Vergata, who was missing since 1996 and found between 2010 and 2023, he was then charged with that murder. And then in January, he was charged with Brainerd Barnes's murder because of the DNA evidence. In June of 2024, he was charged with 2 more, Jessica Taylor's murder and Castile's murder, which now brought his charges to 6. And now today, December 17, 2024, at 9:30 a.m. this morning, he was brought into the Riverhead courts and charged with Valerie Mack's November 2000's death. So when you think about that, now we had no deaths between 1993. Well, that's not true, because 1996 was, yes, I believe 96, and now 2000. So we're starting to fill in a little bit more of what was he doing all this time, because there are some timelines that we really want to know what the heck he was up to, right? There's a lot of gaps here. And then when we look at Valerie Mack, that was November of 2000, was her death, and he was named a suspect back in June, and this is now the charging. The evidence does include detailed notes about the killings that were seized from his home in Massapequa Park, and about newspaper clippings. He had a lot of newspaper clippings they found in the basement and in the home. It's amazing. They went and spent, I believe it was the first time, like 12 days in the home, kind of sorting through everything, grabbing evidence, taking DNA. A lot of forensics work was done. And then they revisited that again and spent another 6 days. So they've spent over 18 days in this home, really digging through and compiling so much data, so much forensics, so much evidence. And again, we don't know what else is going to come with all of this, because what the heck was he doing between 2011 and 2023 before his arrest? Like, that's a big gap. And are there any other murders involved? Are we going to link him to potentially Jane Doe, baby Jane Doe, the Asian male, or any of the other victims? Are we going to cross state lines? A lot of people are talking about across state lines, where some of these gaps might be that he might have moved territories, went to other locations. Who knows? But now, 7th arrest today. Valerie Mack, I'll post her picture here, and the subsequent 6 prior for the alleged victims here of potentially Rex Heuerman's. I'm not used to saying that, because Heuerman, we pronounced it different growing up in school, and I don't know if it was just that we never got corrected or nobody ever pronounced it correctly, but I don't know it as Heuerman. Heuerman is, I think, what I remember pronouncing it as, but irregardless, doesn't matter. What matters is getting justice for these 7 victims, and hopefully the alleged suspect, innocent till proven guilty, of course, We hope that justice is served, and stay tuned for more updates. Thank you guys for joining. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm T for you, and I'm here on a regular basis to bring you guys all different content. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.